Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. In this part 2 video, we are going to continue lessons for chapter 8, managing project stakeholders and communication. Okay, so in this chapter, you will learn about managing project stakeholders, which includes developing a stakeholder analysis, as well as a communication plan for tracking, monitoring, and reporting the project progress. Okay. Okay, in part 1 video, you have learned about the informal organization, okay, a stakeholder analysis, right? And how you learn on how to develop a project communication plans and apply several types of reporting tools that support the communication plan, right? So in this part 2 video, you are going to learn about the concept of earned value and discuss how earned value provides a means of monitoring and forecasting of project's progress. So you are going to be given the tutorial for this topic, okay? And then you are going to learn about how information may be distributed to the project stakeholders and the role of information technology uh, plays to support project communication, okay? Okay, we start with earned value. Earned value is a method for measuring project performance, which combines three parameters: scope, schedule, and cost in a single integrated system. Okay, earned value provides you with a factual way of measuring project performance and also predicting project outcomes. Okay, and it's used by upper management to make cost and time-based decision, right? So, for example, you just signed a contract with a consulting firm for developing an information system. Okay, the project is planned to cost 40,000 and take 4 months to complete, right? So we also assume that the scope of this project is includes 20 deliverables, which represent by 20 activities or tasks that are evenly divided over the 4 month schedule, right? Since each task is expected to take the same amount of time, so the expected cost per task is 2,000, okay, and 5 tasks to be completed per month, right? So this 2,000 value is called the plan value because it is the plan or budgeted cost of work scheduled for an activity, right? Okay, this table summarizes a planned project schedule and budget. Okay, you can see there are 20 tasks listed. Okay, and the expected cost per task is 2,000, right? And the payment of 10,000 must be made for each month, and 5 tasks to be completed per month, right? Okay, now earned value concepts. When we talk about earned value, you must remember these two things: planned value and budgeted at completion, BSC. Okay, planned value is the plan or budgeted cost of work scheduled for an activity or components of the WBS. Okay, in case you have forgot about what is WBS, WBS is a breakdown of work that will be implemented by the project team to achieve the project objective. Okay, so all sub-works in WBS should be identified, estimated, scheduled, and budgeted. So in our case, our planned value for each task is 2,000, right? And the planned value for each month is 10,000, right? So the total budget for our project is 40,000. Okay. Okay, BAC is the total cumulative plan value. So in our case, 40,000 is our BAC since this is what we expect to pay for the completed project, right? Okay, if we were to graph the planned expenditures for our project, right? The planned value for the cumulative cash flows should be look like this figure. Okay. Okay. For example, at the end of the first month, you receive invoice like this. Okay, with the amount of 8,000, and you have to pay it immediately, right? What do you think? This looks like a good news, right? Which is we expected to pay 10,000, but we are only being billed 8,000. It's like we are spending less money than what we planned, which is supposed to be 10,000, right? So the question is, are we really ahead of our budgeted or planned value by 2,000? Actually, it depends on what work was accomplished for the 8,000 that is due. Okay, and we call this actual cost. Actual cost is the total cost incurred for completing a scheduled task or WBS components. All right. So we need to look at the rest of the invoice to be sure. Okay. For example, you look at this invoice. It appears that only 3 of the 5 tasks scheduled to be completed in month 1 were completed as planned. Okay. In fact, 2 of the tasks cost more to complete than originally estimated. Okay. Maybe things are not as good as we thought. Alright? Okay, plan value versus actual cost. If you look at this figure, you will see that we plan to spend 10,000 at the end of the first month, right? But we only need to pay only 8,000, which is charge for 3 tasks out of 5 tasks that should be completed, right? So if you look at this line, it shows a plan value which hold $2,000, right? Okay, another earned value concept is actual cost. The actual cost incurred for completing the activity or components of the WBS, right? Okay, for example, the actual cost for completing task 2 is 3,000. Or we have to write a check for 8,000 for the 3 tasks that were completed in the first month. So, earned value provide a performance measurement that tell us how much of the budget we really should have spent for the work that was completed. Okay, we need to pay our consultants 8,000 in actual cost, even though we should be paying them only 6,000. So, this 6,000 is called the earned value, right? Okay, this table shows plan, actual and earned values for month 1, right? Uh, okay, for example, our project, we plan to pay a cost at $10,000, right? And we have to pay $8,000 because the consultant charged us with that amount for only 3 tasks completed out of the 5 tasks that were expected to be completed, right? So, for the completed tasks, we should pay only $6,000. Okay, so what happened is the two of the tasks, this one, cost more than what we are estimated. Okay, which is $3,000 for each task, whereas we should pay only $2,000 per task. This one. Okay, so in our case, uh, the planned value is $10,000. The actual value is $8,000, and the earned value is $6,000, right? Okay, next is the cost matrix. As I mentioned earlier, earned value provides a performance measurement and provides a method that incorporates scope, schedule, and budget to analyze project performance and progress, right? So we have two types of performance measurements, which are analyzing current performance and forecasting project performance. Okay, in this slide, we start with analyzing current performance first, which involve cost metrics and schedule metrics. Okay, for cost metrics, we can determine the cost variance, which is the difference between a WBS component's planned or estimated cost and its actual cost. Right? So I repeat, if you forget about what is WBS, WBS is a breakdown of work that will be implemented by the project team to achieve the project objectives. Okay, which is all subworks in WBS should be identified, estimated, scheduled, and budgeted. So the formula to calculate cost variance is by subtracting actual cost from earned value, right? And cost performance index is a percentage of work completed per dollar spent. And a CPI can be computed by taking the ratio of earned value to actual cost, right? Okay, this is the example of how you calculate the cost variance, right? A cost variance can be a positive or in a negative value. Okay, for example, in our case, right, a negative $2,000 cost variance is an important metric because it tells us that we have spent, okay, meaning that we spent 8,000 in order to receive 6,000 worth of work. All right. Okay, as you can see here, uh, bracket means a negative value, and a negative cost variance indicates that the project is over budget. All right. So for this situation, right, an appropriate action can be taken to get the project back on track. Okay, for example, we might have to increase the budget or reduce the project scope. Okay, so when you do the calculation, please refer to this value, okay, which means the negative value meaning that over budget, okay, positive value is under budget, and the value of the cost variance equal to 0 means that the project is right on the budget. Okay, so now this is the example of how we calculate the cost performance index, CPI. Okay, for example, a CPI of 0.75 tells us that for every $1 we spend on this project, only 75 cents was really being completed. Okay, and CPI ratio is less than 1, meaning that the project is over budget. Okay, again, if you do the calculation of CPI, you can refer the conclusion with this table. Ratio greater than 1, meaning that under budget. Ratio less than 1, over budget or cost overrun. And ratio equal to 1 means project is right on budget. Okay. Okay, now is a schedule matrix, which is a performance matrix for the project schedule. The schedule variance show the difference between the current progress of the projects and its original or planned schedule. Okay, so the schedule variance is calculated by subtracting the planned value from the earned value. This one. Okay, next is the schedule performance index. Um, Schedule performance index is a ratio of the work performed to the work schedule. It is calculated by dividing earned value by planned value. All right. So let's take a look on the example. Okay, this is the example of schedule variance calculation for our project, right? So A negative schedule variance indicates that the project is behind the schedule. Okay, conversely, a positive schedule variance indicates that the project is ahead of schedule, and value of schedule variance equal to 0 means project is right on schedule. Okay, now the example of schedule performance index calculation, which is calculated by dividing earned value by planned value. Okay, for this example, it shows that for every $1 of work that was expected to be completed, only 60 cents was accomplished. Okay, so meaning that if schedule performance index greater than 1, okay, it indicates that the project is ahead of schedule. And if SPI, schedule performance index, is less than 1, it means that we are behind the schedule. And if the ratio is equal to 1, means our project is right on schedule. So for this example, it is the ratio is less than 1, which tells us that the project is behind the schedule, right? Okay, this is the summary of project performance metrics for current performance analysis. Okay, so this table summarizes the earned value performance metrics for our example, right? So this analysis can be made for each task or for a larger components of WBS. All right. Okay, now we move to the second performance measurement, which is forecasting project performance. Right? If you remember in the previous slide, when we talked about the earned value concept, I asked you to remember two things, right? The first one is planned value, okay, which is the plan or budgeted cost of work scheduled for an activity or components of the WBS. The second one is budgeted at completion, BAC, okay, which is a total or cumulative plan value for the entire project. All right. So for forecasting project performance measurement, we need budgeted at completion in our analysis. Okay, in our case, okay, example of our project, $40,000 is our budgeted at completion value. Okay, because this is what we expect to pay for the completed project. So earned value analysis can be used to predict or forecast the future resource or budget needs of the project based on the project's current performance. All right. So now the estimate at completion, okay, EAC. EAC estimates the most likely total or final value based on our project's performance and any risk that should be considered. Okay, we can either revise the whole budget and schedule and start over, or we can use the project's current performance metrics to develop a more realistic picture. Right? It is depends on whether we believe these variances are typical and expected to continue, or atypical. Okay, for example, we don't expect variances or problems as we continue with the project. All right. Okay, this is the example of estimated completion calculation. We start with EAC in typical variances. Variances here means difference between estimate and actual. Okay, so EAC is calculated by subtracting the cumulative earned value to date from the budgeted at completion and then dividing by the cumulative cost performance index and added to cumulative actual cost. Or you can use another formula, which is EAC is equal to budgeted at completion dividing by the cumulative cost performance index. So if you look at this answer, we believe that the variances encountered so far will continue for the remainder of our project. Then the total budget to complete this project is estimated to be $53,333.33. All right. Okay, now estimate at completion in a typical variances. Okay. Meaning that if these variances are influenced by issues or problems reflected in both CPI and SPI. CPI is cost performance index. SPI is schedule performance index. Okay, then a more appropriate conservative approach would be used, which is to multiply the cost performance index and the schedule performance index to take into account how the remaining work might be influenced. Okay, if you look at this example, when we believe the variances encountered so far will not continue for the remainder of our project, okay, then the total budget to complete this project is estimated to be $65,500. Okay, so under these two scenario, typical and atypical variances, all right, the final cost of our project could be somewhere between $53,363 to $65,500. Okay. Okay, another earned value metric is variance at completion. Okay, VAC. The VAC compares the original plan value budget or budget at completion with the estimate at completion. Okay, to determine whether a budget surplus or deficit exists. So this is the formula. All right. A negative VAC reflects a budget deficit, and a positive VAC indicates a budget surplus. Okay, so in our example, VAC of 13,383 considers the impact of only the cost performance index because this is a negative value. Okay, while VAC of $25,000 considers the impact of both schedule performance index and cost performance index. Okay, so in this both cases, the VAC tells us that the project is operating way over budget, right? Which is resulting the budgeting at completion appears to be no longer realistic, and the estimate at completion should become the new budget. Okay. Okay, this is another earned value matrix, which is to complete performance index, TCPI. Okay, the TCPI can be calculated for the original budgeted at completion or the estimate at completion. So the first one is calculation for the original budgeted at completion. Okay, this is the formula. Okay, if a TCPI is greater than 1, it suggests that the project will be more difficult to complete based on the remaining resources. Otherwise, if TCPI is less than 1, it suggests less difficulty. Okay. Okay, this is the second TCPI calculation for the estimate at completion with typical and atypical variances, right? For typical, which is affect CPI only, this is the formula, all right? Or if considering the effect of both CPI and SPI, then you must use this formula. Alright. Okay, both TCPI, if you can see here, is less than 1, which is less difficulty, meaning that to achieve the estimate at completion of $53,333 or $65,500 would be much easier. Alright, so in conclusion, the project, for our project, okay, uh, it may have more difficult time achieving its original budget of $40,000. Okay, so if you look at this table, TCPI greater than 1 suggests that the project will be more difficult to complete, and if TCPI less than 1, it suggests less difficulty. All right. Okay, basically this table summarize the earned value analysis for our example. Okay, you can read by yourself. Okay, this is also the continue of the table. Okay, earned value can also be calculated in terms of completion of the planned value. So in this case, we just multiply the planned value of an activity, task, or WBS component by its percentage of completion. Okay, so this table shows example of a project with 5 tasks. Okay, in this case, earned value is equal to planned value multiplied by its associated percent complete. Okay, then for earned value analysis, you can use the various project performance metrics described in the previous slide, right? Okay, now reporting performance and progress. Okay, project reporting tends to fall under one of the following categories. Okay, the first one is reviews. Project reviews may be formal or informal meetings that include various project stakeholders. Okay, the purpose of a review is to not only show evidence that the project work has been completed, but also that the work has been completed according to certain standards or agreed upon requirement. Okay, so the second one is a status and progress reporting. Okay, a status report describes the present state of the project. Okay, which is in general, a status report compares the project's actual progress to the baseline plan. Sorry. Okay, next one is progress reporting. A progress report tells us what the project team has accomplished. Okay, this report may compare the activities or tasks that were completed to the activities or tasks outlined in the original project network. Okay, forecast reporting. Um, it's referring to a forecast report that focused on predicting the future status or progress of the project. Okay, for example, it may include the earned value analysis that tell us how much funding will be needed to complete the project, right? Okay, information distribution. Okay, to complete the project communications plan, the project manager and team must determine how and when the required information will be provided to the various stakeholders. Okay, basically the project communications plan must include a variety of ways for project stakeholders to communicate. Okay, most communication involves face-to-face meetings, telephone, mail, wireless device, and also collaboration technology, for example, blog, wiki, or instant messaging, right? Okay, this figure shows an example of how people communicate and interact today. Okay, for example, same time, same place. Okay, um, it's a face-to-face meeting. Okay, same time, different place. Same time, different place. For example, video conference, instant messaging, right? Okay, different time, same place. Okay, this one. For example, electronic mail, okay, threaded discussion areas. And the last one is different time, different place. It is also electronic mail and a threaded discussion area. Okay, so even though today a number of IT-based tools and technology are available to support the different needs of the project stakeholders, okay, however, form of communication such as face-to-face meetings are still important and more appropriate in certain situations. Okay, so on that note, I think that's all for chapter 8. And I end this video with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Thank you.